Kunming, the city of eternal spring, comfortable weather throughout the year, and the city of diverse people living together in harmony and peace. Looks really happy, right? Let's see the other side of the coin. Unfinished has become a common sad thing for the owners of number 4 land. Because of this sad thing, everyone pities each other and shares difficulties together, forming a big family that helps each other. In 2014, Miss Liu bought a 150 square meter suite on the number 4 plot. However, she found that after the Spring Festival in 2015, there was no more movement on the construction site. The house was delayed for 7 years. The rent was paid for 7 years, and the mortgage was repaid for 7 years. According to some of them, they are living their life like an urban gypsy. This is a story about Kunming Happy City. This is a story about resilience and unexpectedness. This is the story about their way of doing architecture. The construction has stopped since 2015, and the towers remain the same. A dream had turned into a nightmare. The unfortunate stagnation of construction resulted with this building staying in an unfinished state for 7 long years, until in 2020 a number of desperate house owners decided to move into the unfinished floors and start living. And this unexpected situation created stories to tell. With 100 people came 100 stories. These unfortunate people have spent in some cases all of their life capital savings into acquiring a small unit in the towers, only to be living like an urban gypsy. Without the basic amenities such as electricity, water or gas, they have adapted their way of living into a series of community-based actions. As we look deep into their way of clustering together, we see bonds forming among the residents by creating an unexpected family. They have unintentionally morphed into a collective living organism where each individual is taking a part in the communal activities. This was a crucial part of my research as I looked into their way of clustering together. There were vegetable farming on the site. The men were doing repairing and construction of the staircases or pathways. They were having community meals together and cooking in the community kitchen together. They were collecting water from the nearby resources, the children playing on the site, the women square dancing in their leisure evenings, and finally, the festivities happening inside the site. All of this created this atmosphere of collective organism in the Kunming Happy City project. So the question was how to intervene in an unfinished site with an already built community like this. I looked back to the roots of Chinese vernacular architecture. All throughout China, there are several traditional housing styles, but most of them follows the courtyard concept, including the Yunnan province where Kunming City is. The Siheyuan is a typical courtyard house concept, but I was immensely amazed by the way Liu house people lived in this corridor-connected circular typology. Although these people have separate apartment units, they are weaved together through a corridor surrounding a shared intimate courtyard in different levels. I was thoroughly impressed by Wang Shu and his practice of critical regionalism in the modern-day architectural practice in China. The critical regionalism emphasizes the importance of placeless by considering contextual elements like scenery, historical references, and light without falling into imitation and traditionalism. The name of their practice, Amateur Architecture Studio, signals this commitment to learning from the amateur builder, focusing on a craft skill, such as the Wapan technique in the Ningbo Museum, and applying this to contemporary architecture. Combining this traditional knowledge with experimental building techniques and intensive research, Mature Architecture Studio respond with a site-specific architecture that valorizes craft and skill, our professional knowledge and expertise. These inspirations brought me to the intervention of courts intertwined with the housing towers of the Kunming Happy City. As I tried to interconnect the tower blocks with the courtyards, I stumbled upon the idea of having a crossover with the pathways and the courtyard blocks. Thus having a situation like this, where the courtyard volumes are integrating within the towers and enclosing the tower blocks in a different urban fabric. The first phase would be the pathways connecting the towers in an almost unplanned way, creating deliberate accidents or coincidences. The courts will also be built in phases. The first few phases would be just the towers where most of the families are living in the first 3 floors. So what happens when all the courts with different textures are there? It creates a different urban fabric in the Kunming Happy City with different textures of farmlands, grass, pathways, and courts in different levels. All these textures only enhance the quality of the urban fabric in the Kunming Happy City and promotes the collective living environment in between the towers. All these courts will have different functional aspects surrounded by the flexible framework of volumes. These could be occupied and reappropriated by the people according to their need, thus encouraging participation throughout the phases. It will also break the monotonous repetition of the towers, as it doesn't have any kind of connection with the ground. Thus, the topographical changes created by the court volumes have spaces connected with the ground in different levels, and so in the layers integrating within the towers, breaking the monotony. As the section rejuvenates the interaction and connection within the ground and different levels of towers and the courtyard volumes. So what will be the driving force to keep on living here? The unfinished towers, even when not suitable to live, were used by the inhabitants skillfully. They all showed tremendous courage in the face of adversity and took upon the challenge to make it their home. With the framework of courtyard volumes interlocking the tower blocks together, weaves into a more integrated and interactive space for the inhabitants. The way of collective living is reintroduced in the context with layers of spaces connected through the earth. These are the people who came from all over China, from different walks of life, and the environment within the courtyard will only enhance their sense of belongingness to the context. This will be the driving force to live here, as they now have a future to look forward to, where the towers may integrate into a vertical community in the future. As a starter, as a principle, as a frame to work on, a framework with which to start and in which to work above and below, a structure in which to design, think, and work in a co-creative way by those who matter in the context of the Kunming yet not happy city, a project in which the architect cannot continue alone, a project in which a situation is designed far from a final project. Is conceived as a succession of courtiers that in turn connect with the unfinished towers, which offer the towers an urban context, an urban development that gives the place to the towers, that can give an identity to all that raw concrete, towards a truly happy city.